Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to start, believe it or not, with the 3 phases of healing. And I'll just tell you a couple stories, some really sad stories in chiropractic. Most people, clients, when they come to me, they can't even explain the 3 phases of healing. I go, what's your care based on? They'll say something, blah, 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 pinched nerve, subluxation, something, right? Usually it's not even a system. It's like grab a little here, and try to make something work, right? That's usually what's... And I'll go, okay, so what's your care based on? And I've literally had this happen. I've had doctors go, I recommend, X amount of visits. I go, okay, well, what's that based on? I don't know, I just like that number. How's that go over with you and your mom? What if your mom was going to the doctor and that's the recommendation she got for care? The doctor liked that number. How would you like that? How would you like that about your mom going to care? Huh?
Not much.
Right, and that's what's going on. I've even had chiropractors come to me and go, what do you base treatment schedules on? Guy's been in practice 2 years. What are you basing treatment schedules on? It's bad. It's real bad out there. Because we're being, and you guys know why. When I got out of school, remember, I thought I was going to see COPD. They trained you like you were going to see everything except neuromusculoskeletal joint dysfunction. And so there was no system for what we do see every day. You know what we do see every day, statistically? 84% is back pain, neck pain, headaches. That's who goes to a chiropractor. Joint dysfunction, back pain, neck pain, headaches. 7% is still in the neuromusculoskeletal category, extremities. And those usually are not primary visits. There's a lot of people that don't even think chiropractors treat shoulders and knees. They'll come in for back pain or neck pain, and they'll have a secondary extremity problem, and the chiropractor will work with it. That's how that happens. So that leaves us 91% of 8%. First of all, how big is the number is 8%? Is that just a crappy number after 120 years or what? Doesn't that just make you sick? 8% of the population's going. Do you know more back pain patients go to your local general practitioner than your local chiropractor? It's the second leading cause of going to a local general practitioner, back pain. There's more people driving by this chiropractic office every day going to a local general practitioner with back pain than coming to this office, when we know that 99 out of 100 cases is neuromechanical, not organic. Meaning what? It's chiropractic. How good of a job marketing has chiropractic done? Terrible. Terrible. So that takes us to 91%. So we're in the neuromusculoskeletal category, 84% back pain, neck pain, headaches. Those are called gateways. That becomes real important in marketing. 7% are still the neuromusculoskeletal category. So that's 91% of 8%. Who's the other 9% of the 8%? That's the somatovisceral reflex, asthma, allergy, bedwetting. You go, well, how big of a number is that? 9% of 8%. How many patients is that in a geographic radius of draw? Pretty damn small, isn't it? It's worse than that. Out of the 9% that get treated, guess how many actually pick up the phone and call a chiropractor for that asthma, allergy, bedwetting, choleric?
1%.
Less than 20%. 80% came in for what? Back pain, neck pain, headaches, and then the chiropractor did his little magic show, showed them push the button on the lights that go to the liver, and that person happened to have asthma, allergy, or choleric, and that's how that statistic came about. That's out of the National Institute of Health's largest complementary alternative medicine study ever done, ever in the United States. Go look it up. So what's the reality of the number of people who actually pick up a phone to call a chiropractor for subluxations, asthma, allergy, bedwetting? 20% of 9% of 8%. And you're limited by a geographic radius of draw of about 3 miles. How many people is that? But that's what the chiropractic profession tells you to keep promoting every year. And not only that, it violates the principles of marketing. It violates paradigm shifts, violates law of line extension, and here's why. Are you going to go to Taco Bell to buy a computer? What just happened to your defenses, resistance, confidence, and trust? Go up or down?
It's not going to happen.
Do you even want to go to Taco Bell to eat tacos now?
Never.
That's exactly what happened to chiropractic. It's called violation of the law of line extension. You can't just say you can do everything to everybody. When you do that, you become nothing to everybody and you lose credibility. That's why it's at 8% utilization with a 67% negative name recognition after 120 plus years. Good and bad news about that. If you don't know any better, you're stuck with only 8% within your geographic radius of draw by your other competitors. And those are small numbers. That's why most chiropractors have small numbers. Okay? Then they don't even know how to keep them. The patients come in with symptom care. Chiropractors typically talk about subluxations, wellness care. Bing, bada bing, bada boom. They push the button with the light to the liver. And what happens when you go to the dentist and the dentist says, I can help you with asthma. Look at the molar tooth. It's got a meridian to your lungs. I think I can help you with your asthma. You know what's funny when I say that, you're laughing, right? That's what chiropractors are doing every day. It's funny. When I say that to chiropractors, they all laugh. And then I go, that's what you're doing every day. They're coming in with back pain. You're pushing the little light to the asthma. And you're saying you can help them with asthma. But you think it's a joke when I just did the same thing with the dentist. You laugh and you go, that's a joke. But then you turn around and go back to your office and do the same thing tomorrow. That's the chiropractic. So there's good news and bad news. That's the bad news. Here's the great news. You're going to see how the market's divided up. You can do advertising to get a little bit more of the 8%. That's what will get the 8%. They go in 5 common places. So if you're a little better with the advertising, you can get a little higher of the 8%. Okay. But it all starts with patient retention. Because how many new patients do you have if somebody comes in once and they leave once? You're going to need a lot of new patients. Where's that going to come from with 8%? It's not. So the more you lose patients, the more new patients you have to get, right? But you already know they don't get up in the morning. You get up in the morning and go, man, I can't wait to go to the dentist 3 times a week and spend $50 and spend an hour and a half of my time. Is that how you get up every week? Well, guess what? Neither do they. So unless you know how to change that, that's what you get. It's called market forces. They want to come in as little as possible, and they want to get the hell out of there as quick as possible. That's what you're getting with your stats. So when I look at your stats, and I see huge dropouts, like 30, 40, 50% in the first 2 visits, what does that tell me? You're getting market forces. What does that tell me when they stay for 6 visits, 7 visits? They're not buying into your system. They're just feeling better and leaving. That's what it's telling me. In other words, whatever you're doing, it's not even working. Okay? That's what the stats tell me. Okay, so the great news about this is when you know the marketing, 92% of that, 3 out of 4 of them have back pain, neck pain, or headaches. How do we know that? Second leading cause of going to medical doctor. Second leading cause of going to emergency room. Second leading workers' compensation injury. Number one disability in the United States is arthritis, joint pain. Doesn't chiropractors treat joint pain? Massive amount of potential business. And chiropractors are trying to sell subluxations, asthma, and wellness care that nobody's buying. The great news is when you understand this and how it works, you do advertising to get a little more of 8%. That's what works if you do it right. But you have this 92% of the market over here that's huge. 3 out of 4 of them have a problem. That's 68% of the market, not 8%. Advertising doesn't get that business, neither does publicity. Only educational sales does. So if you don't know educational sales, you can't access that. And I'm the only person that I know of that teaches educational sales in chiropractic. You know how I know that? I was a speaker in 3 chiropractic colleges teaching it. Nobody I ran into teaches the S-curve of economics except me. They keep teaching subluxation, wellness care. That's how I know that. So once I learned that, I'm like, wow, I had access. I can talk to 10 people and get 7 of them as new patients, and none of them were looking to go to a chiropractor. Solve the new patient problem. But what really solves the new patient problem is patient education. We know how to keep patients. Okay? And there's very specific phases of patient care. So the first phase is symptom care. So the less knowledgeable and skillful you are, that's what you get. Market forces. They come in and they want to leave as quick as possible. Unfortunately, that's the stats that I saw when I looked at all your offices. Did he share the stat numbers with you guys? Do you remember? Did you share the stat numbers with everybody?
Just briefly. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what your dropout rate was?
70-something%.
But what visit?
The third visit.
You didn't know that though, did you?
Not before being told that.
Right. Do you remember what your stat was?
I don't.
You do, or you just or don't want to admit it now?
I'm sure it's,
Or you don't want to admit it
3
now?
visits is pretty good.
Do you remember his stat?
Not off the top of my head. It was
Okay.
pretty close.
Make sure they know their stats by tomorrow.
Okay.
You got to know where you're at so you know a starting point. Okay? Do you know your stat?
So he is going to be joining us. Here.
Okay, so he hasn't. Okay. All right. So anyway, my point.
I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think
So-
he would be there.
So we'll go through the stats a little tomorrow. So now here's good news and bad news about it. You're going to clean this thing up so fast. It's going to be amazing. 92% of my clients that start doing the patient education I'm getting ready to show you increase their business over $100,000 a year in 90 days. It's amazing, because you're not going to talk about subluxations and wellness care. You're going to talk about stuff that they care about, and then you're going to make it affordable. So there's the symptom care. Then there's what's called functional capacity care. And there's all kinds of models in chiropractic with functional capacity. There's chiropractic biophysics, there's the subluxation, homeopathy. What are some other models you guys can think of? There's about 5 or 7. There's a disc neuropathy model. There's about 5 to 6 or 7 models of functional care. Then there's the crappy maintenance care. Why is it crappy? Nobody buys maintenance care, that's why. Chiropractors talk about maintenance care. You know what percentage of people buy maintenance care? 3%.
No way.
Why would you sell something that is 97% failure?
I don't.
You stop doing it. Now there is a care plan. There are 3 systems, but the third one is not maintenance. It's actually, I call it the lifestyle. It's not maintenance. It's actually focused. There's direction, there's focus, there's biomarkers. In other words, there's guidelines and clear focus. It's not come in periodically to feel good. How many of us do that? Look at all the different services that are out there. Do you get your heart checked regularly? Do you get your eyes checked regularly? Do you get your intestines checked as they recommend? You're not doing any of these maintenance care, but you expect your patients to, right? No, that's nonsense. So there is a third care. It's called lifestyle care. I do lifestyle care. You guys do lifestyle care in different products and services, right? I buy toothpaste. You guys probably buy toothpaste every 1, 2, 3 months, right? That's called lifestyle care. You have your reasons why you buy that. You maybe don't know for sure, but there are conscious and subconscious reasons why you do that with nobody telling you. That's called lifestyle care. Okay? So we're not going to worry about lifestyle care, because you can't even do lifestyle care if you don't even know functional capacity care. So the first thing we're going to pay attention to is go, well, let's look at the 3 phases of healing, because that's the science of healing. We're not going to base it on subluxations. We're not going to base it on it. We're going to base it on real world, how everybody heals, irregardless of the healthcare professional they go to, period. Now, guess what happens when you don't base your care on the science of the 3 phases of healing in the United States? When you do not document based on the science of the 3 phases of healing, and you got third-party insurers involved, guess what that's called?
Fraud.
Malpractice. It's called malpractice. Yeah. That's the standard. The standard of care is treating somebody based on how they naturally heal, and how they naturally heal is called the science of 3 phases of healing. That's what it's based on. That's not my opinion. It's not the orthopedist opinion. It's not the neurologist opinion. That's the way they're going to heal, period. Now the patient just gets to choose, which person they want. The great news about chiropractic is this neuromusculoskeletal market, we're the only ones professionally that actually provide all 3 phases of healing. We're the only ones. Which is, that itself is a massive market. Huge. But the profession doesn't. They want to go treat everything else. Just saw a big symposium back at my school on child care. Treating infants. 77 offices, 20 states, 600,000 visits a year. Guess how many patients came in because they knew the chiropractor could help their baby with asthma, allergy, or choleric? Guess how many? How many have you had in 4 years?
None.
That's how many I've had. 0. But they're doing symposiums on it. Like it's real. No, it's not real. Go ahead and, I used to speak I told you I spoke at 3 chiropractic colleges. And what I would do every time I'd go into, I spoke at Logan and Parker and Texas Chiropractic College to the seniors. And I'd stop at the local gas station like a block from school, get a little recorder, and I'd say, I'd ask like 3 or 4 people as they were coming in for gas, say, excuse me, I'm doing a little research. Do you mind if I ask you 3 questions? Just take real quick. I said, do you know, and these are typically the questions I ask. I said, under our healthcare professions initials, do you know what MD stands for? Oh yeah, that's better. Do you know what DC stands for? I said, do you think it's safe for a chiropractor to treat a pregnant woman? Go ahead and ask that in the real world. Do you think chiropractors can effectively treat asthma, allergy, or bedwetting? Go ask that in the real world. I go do my seminar, I explain violations of marketing, and I hit play. Bam! Total silence in that room. Gutted them. Gutted them. Do you know what a subluxation is? Go ahead and do that in the real world. And that's what everybody's being taught to promote every day. Bam! You could hear a penny drop. Like, what the hell? We've been lied to. So you can imagine my crowds went one way or the other real fast. I had a lot of people that hated me real fast. Didn't matter that. They were going to get it whether they liked it or not. And then we had the other half was like, you're the only one that's making sense that comes in here as a speaker. What you said is exactly right. I can understand that as a consumer. Okay. So here's what we want to do. We want to start with patient education. That's where you have to start. Patient education retention. So we're not going to start with symptom care. You can do that if you wanted to. We just don't. I just think it's immoral, unethical. If you want to do that, the more you'll see, and you want to let patients leave and develop permanent problems the rest of their life because you're not familiar with the 3 phases of healing and you don't know how to communicate it, that's your business. That's not who I am. I'm going to let them pick. I'm going to educate them. Here's the 3 phases. You tell me which of the phases you want me to help you with. Whichever phase you want me to help you with, I'm going to make it affordable, and then we're going to start care. That's how I do chiropractic. It's your choice. I'm just going to educate you. That's it. Whatever you choose. You want inflammation care and that's it? I'm okay with it. We're good. You want inflammation repair care? I'm okay with that. We're good. You want all 3 phases of care? I'm okay with that. We're good. And then I'm going to make it affordable. Sound ethical? Sound moral? Is that what you'd want for your mom or dad if they went to the doctor? To be given the real information and allow them to make the choices and make it affordable? Is that not what you would want as a consumer or a patient for yourself, your wife, your mother, your father, your son, or your daughter? is not exactly what you would want. That's all we're going to do. That's all we're going to do here. I'm not going to tell you to do this, this, and that. All we're going to do is go, hey, maybe there's this thing called 3 phases of healing you might not be aware of. It's pretty cool. Helps a lot of people. And then let's make it affordable and help a lot of people. That's all. Then there's a third category, but we're not going to go into that because you can't even go to lifestyle education if you don't even know functional capacity education. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at. That's where we're headed. That's what we're going to do. Okay? You get to choose. Now, what are the two common problems that I see with chiropractors? What's the 2 main reasons that you have a 70% dropout rate or a 50% dropout rate or a 40% dropout rate after 2, 3, 4, 5 visits? There's 2 reasons. One is lack of knowledge. I guarantee you, if you knew what I knew about the 3 phases of healing, there's no way in hell you'd be doing what you're doing right now with your recommendations. There's no way. You wouldn't want your mom treated that way. You wouldn't want your dad treated that way. You wouldn't want your son treated that way. Knowing the ramifications when they heal wrong because you didn't know the 3 phases of healing and that people actually heal wrong. And they will heal wrong to some degree if they don't get specific types of therapy within each of the phases of healing because each phase is totally different physiologically. So if you don't even know that, how can you offer it? You can't. And then number 2, that has to do with conviction. So if you know it and you believe in it, you're way more likely to actually offer it. Most chiropractors don't have the conviction because they don't know it. And then they don't have the confrontation. Those are the 2 issues with chiropractic retention. Conviction and confrontation. And here's the problem I see mostly. It's haphazard. You're trying to figure it out. You grab a little here. Or you'll have somebody come in and say, do this. But they won't explain why. And you know some of it or a lot of it might be dollar motivated. You know what I mean, don't you? You know what I mean, don't you?
Sure.
That is not what this is. The good news is you make a lot of money when you do it right. The good news is it's very affordable to the patient. That's great news. Those are byproducts. There's a difference between that being a byproduct and that's why you're doing it. Big, big difference. So, those are the common reasons why when I see chaos with statistics. It's not a good system. It's based on chiropractic stuff. Doctor really doesn't believe it. You know, how do I know that? Remember that when I went to the first office I was telling you, the guy that trained me like on real basic stuff, he was big into the pinched nerve thing. Like, you got a pinched nerve. That's not too big of an extreme, but I'm like, Remember that other office I was telling you about? And I took over that office when it was seeing 39 visits a week and I shot it up real fast because now I was trained. That guy wanted me to teach. He had several satellite offices. He wanted all his doctors to teach that they have subluxations and they'll die from their subluxations if they don't get... You think I'm fooling? You guys know this is going on in chiropractic, don't you?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You damn well you know what's going on in this profession. That's what he wanted all his satellite offices doctors to do. I couldn't do it. I'm like, there's no way I can do that. It was unethical, immoral. It wasn't even right. I didn't believe it. It was crap. Now, that doesn't mean I don't believe in something called a somatovisceral reflex. That does occur. Is that the cause of all asthma, allergy, bedwetting, and all ailments in the history of mankind? Well, I can tell you from a treating professional that treated thousands and thousands of patients, hell no. Have I treated a patient before and their smell come back? Yeah, that's actually, I've had my BJ story. Have I treated patients who had asthma as a byproduct, but I didn't know it? I was treating their back pain and it helped their asthma? Yeah. Did that happen most of the time? No. Did I help people with high blood pressure most of the time? No. So you got a real problem here. Somatic visceral reflex does happen, number one. It's a very small percentage of all the healthcare problems, but that's not the real problem. The real problem is one hell of a paradigm shift because you're not going to buy computers from Taco Bell. That's the problem. Even though Taco Bell could make one hell of a computer.
Sure.
See? You got a huge paradigm shift problem. It's called violating the law of line extension in marketing. It's the number one reason businesses don't go past 10%. It's the number one reason Fortune 500 companies drop out of the Fortune 500. And chiropractors and the profession has never learned it, and they keep violating it year after year after year after year. And so here you are, 8% utilization, 67% negative name recognition, 120 plus years later. And the insanity will continue tomorrow at all the schools and seminars. Not here. Okay, so we're based on the science of the three phases of healing because it relates to everybody and anybody. All you have to do is know the science of the three phases of healing. And then it's real hard, once you understand the science of the three phases of healing, it's real hard not to offer that to the patient and make it affordable. So now the money's different and the amount of time is different. But if you're just talking, if you took money out of the picture and time out of the picture, and you knew the three phases of healing and all the positive and negative ramifications associated with it, you would want that for your son, daughter, mother, father, wife. That's what you'd want. You'd want to give them the best opportunity to heal as much as possible and the least opportunity to heal wrong as least as possible. Is that not what you'd want? That's what happens when you know the science of the three phases of healing. So that's where we have to start. Because you can't educate or promote something that you don't even know or you don't even believe in, and you don't believe in it just because you don't know it. See how that works? So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start in the basics of the science of the three phases. What's really happening here? Then how does it relate to chiropractic? Okay, then we're going to go, what are the biomarkers? What are the tests that are going to tell us, are they in the inflammation phase, or they're in the repair phase, or they're in the remodel phase? How are we going to know? See, one of the reasons I knew when I talked to him that you guys didn't know the basics of the science of the three phases of healing, you weren't doing the three basic tests that actually show. The three most important tests, none of you guys are doing, that actually show the problem. The difference is called what I call high sensitivity versus low sensitivity diagnostics. You do a lot of low sensitivity diagnostics, not very relevant to specific problems. You won't even see the problem. It's still there, you just won't see it. That's what's going on. You're not doing the three basic tests that show the major problems with joint dysfunction. You're doing low sensitivity tests like active range of motion, reflexes, and dermatomes. And all those tests are what are called low sensitivity, essentially worthless tests for the chiropractic patient. Those tests are essentially all normal at MMI. When the patient's at MMI, those are all essentially normal. That's not where the problems are. So we're going to go into what are the tests that you need to do to actually see the problem. I mean, how much sense does it make to do a test, to not do a test that shows the specificity of a problem? How much sense does that make? Like you guys do personal injury, right? How much sense does it make to look for a ligamentous lesion with an MRI? A dynamic lesion with an MRI. How much sense does that make? Is that even the right test? It's not even the right test. You're on the moon. It's like doing a blood test for a dynamic lesion. You're doing the wrong test for the problem. So that's what we got to pay attention to. Second is going, wait a minute. These are the typical chiropractic problems. Don't you think we ought to start doing high sensitivity tests for those problems to actually see if they're there or not, and then quantify it, and then treat it accordingly to see if it's getting better, worse, staying the same, or going to end up with a permanent problem to some degree? Don't you think that maybe that's what we should do as physicians? Does that make sense? That's the second thing we're going to do. We're going to have to actually do the tests that actually show the problems. Okay? Okay. Then we're going to have to go into patient education. Go, well, how are you going to explain this simply? How are you going to explain the three phases of healing where it's simple, where somebody in the 8th grade can understand it? Because that's how you have to talk. You can't use words like subluxation. Nobody even knows or cares about. Do you care about the word farfanugan? Do you even know what it means?
Jokingly, maybe.
Do you even know what it means? That's how the market thinks about this subluxation thing. Now, see? You don't want to use words they don't even know. So now we got to go, well, how can we dumb this down and make it really simple? Well, because once you do that, they're going to go, that makes sense, I'll take it. You're done with the acceptance of care part. What's the only other part you got to deal with now?
Money.
Time and money. You got a time problem. If you're making them wait in the first few visits, the average, what's the number one problem with a doctor's office with patients?
Yeah,
Waiting. What's the average time before they start getting frustrated?
Probably 10 minutes.
12 minutes. 12 minutes. So after you do your report of findings and you go, well, it's not going to take long, and you let them sit out there for 20 minutes, and then they were in here for 30 minutes. And here's what the doctors don't understand. The average time it takes for somebody to drive to work, do you know how long the average time it takes for the average American to drive to work and home?
25 minutes.
22 minutes. Here's what you're not paying attention to as the doctor. The only time you pay attention to the doctor with the patient is what? Your time with them. That's not their time investment. This shocks doctors when I talk. They're like, oh no, I'm only with them 10 minutes. I'm like, you don't understand. That's not their experience. Your 10 minutes was not their experience, buddy. They took 22 minutes to drive here. They took 22 minutes to drive home. You made them wait 10, 15, or 20 minutes, and then they were in the office maybe with you for 5 or 10 minutes, and they were in therapy for 10 or 15 minutes. That whole experience was an hour and a half, and you want them to do it 3 times a week. And then you want them to pay for it for $50 or $70. Would you? Is that how you wake up in the morning? Damn, I can't wait to go to the dentist, spend an hour and a half today going there and back and getting care and then paying for it, and I want to do that 3 times a week. You see why you got a patient retention problem? So the first concept is the need, getting them to accept the need and the care. Well, believe me, it's really easy once you understand the 3 phases of healing. That's not difficult. Every one of us here would want, after a problem, we would want to feel get it to be as best as possible, normal, and have no permanent problems to some degree. That's what all of us, any common sense, normal, logical person would want. That's not hard. Then we got to come over to money, because now that becomes the number one obstacle. Well, we're going to take the money and go to terms, because there's 6 socioeconomic classes. Only 5 of them can afford chiropractic care. One class is the people under the bridge. Those aren't chiropractic patients. The homeless, those aren't. So there's only one socioeconomic class that's not even a chiropractic patient. So out of the other 5, they can afford chiropractic care. But here's the problem. Only 2 of the 5 categories can afford it with term, or can pay in full. So if you're expecting payment in full, out of the 6 socioeconomic categories, how many patients did you just lose? 4 out of 6. You just lost 4 out of 6. Just from the money side. Now, what if you made it affordable? In other words, instead of, here's the other problem with those two, they're white collar. They're middle upper class white collar. That's not the chiropractic target market. That's not the demographic or psychographic. Our target market are middle class, middle lower class, blue collar people that need their joints. Plumbers, electricians, roofers, people that need to move. That's who buys our product, not white collar people. They don't need their joints. They can take their medication and stay at home, or take medication and go to work if they're an accountant or a lawyer or whatever. Our target market is solid blue collar, and it goes right into survival. They need their joints in their body to do their work, to pay for their mortgage and their food. That's the chiropractic patient. They can't afford it up front, but they can afford if you take it to terms. What happened when they introduced credit cards back in the 40s? What happened to consumption, consumer product consumption and purchases? Skyrocketed. Why? It went to terms. See, the majority of people can't afford your care. 3 out of the 5 cannot afford your care. The 2 that can aren't the ones that are coming in the majority. But all 5 of those categories can if you went to terms. In other words, you took the payments and you spread it out over X amount of time. So terms becomes a really important subject because that's enough. So if they can accept care, but the terms are too high with money, that's a bear. They won't come in. But what if they accept and understand the 3 phases of care and the terms aren't high, it makes sense to them. Are they going to accept care now? We're 2/3 of the way there now, aren't we? What's the last thing I got to worry about? Time. Can't have them waiting in the office. That's why I have what's called a 7-minute wait policy. Nobody's allowed to wait more than 7 minutes. They've got to be back within 7 minutes. Now in my office, they were not allowed to wait at all. For a regular visit, as soon as they signed in, they were not allowed to turn around and sit down. The whole system was designed, I'm talking about a regular visit. New patients have to sit down to fill out their stuff. The whole office, the efficiency, the design, the training of the doctor was totally designed. Staffing, that patient signed in, they were not allowed to turn around. That was considered a failure in my office. And that's when we had what's called a come to Jesus meeting. Because that just blocked my growth. As soon as that happened, those people are going to start firing me. That was not allowed. So I constantly I had to redesign my office 3 times in the same facility just to allow for expansion and growth, to allow that to happen. So they come in and sign in and they go right back. Doctor spends 1 to 3 minutes with them. How long does an adjustment take? If you're slow, 3 to 5 minutes. If you're slow and you're doing the full body. If you're doing one region, back or neck, it's like 3, if you do it right. Then they come over to therapy, and it depends if they're getting passive therapy. Passive therapy is not a time therapy. We typically did 5 minutes, about 5 minutes is what we did if we did passive. And they were simultaneous. And then if they were a time therapy, a lot of times they were modified if they were in the repair phase. So that's 8 minutes minimum, but the 8 minutes is included for everything. They don't have to have 8 minutes of therapy. Did you know that? That includes the consultation, talking to the patient, quantifying the problem, doing the objective analysis for that day for the SOAP notes. It includes the therapy for that day, and it includes the documentation for that day. Did you know that? Huh? That's the definition of a minimum of 8 minutes. It's not 8 solid minutes on that therapy for a modified rehab. And a full rehab is 15. But it includes the therapy plus, how you doing today, James? Scale of 1 to 10, where are you? Let me check you today, James. Okay, here's the therapy. Blah, blah. Hold tight, James. Let me document everything. Okay, you're good to go. That's what represents the 8 or 15 minutes, whether it's a modified or full rehab therapy. You're not aware of that? Okay? All right. So we got this time thing we got to pay attention to. So by the time you go to the report of findings, and let's say you do that 2, 3 days later, 4 days later, and you've already had them wait 30 minutes in the waiting room, 20 minutes. They've been in here with the doctor 10 minutes. They've been on therapy for 20 minutes. The whole experience was an hour and a half coming to here and going home. And now you're in your report of findings saying you want to see him 3 times a week. Would you just do the obstacle of time? You just magnified the hell out of it. So they could have totally accepted the need that they want the care, the 3 phases. They could have totally accepted the terms, but now you lost them on time. Those are the 3 things you got to be able to handle. That's what's going to get you patient retention. That's when the people are going to say, yeah, I want all 3 phases of care. That makes sense. That's affordable. And you can get me in and out of the office. Now, you're a consumer, right? Is that called good service or bad service? If you're going to buy a product or service, is that called good service or bad service if they're paying attention to you like that?
Service.
Huh?
Bad service.
It's bad service for them to take care of your need, make it affordable, and make it time worthy of you. That's called bad service?
Good service.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here. Is that what's going on now? We already know your patient education is not working. How do we know that?
Statistics.
You're losing patients left and right. Somebody was losing like 30, 40% somebody was losing 40% by like the second visit. I mean, there were some really bad stats. That's why I said, with those stats, all you had to do is say, just come in 3 times a week until you feel better. You'd have seen them more than twice. So I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You got to be doing something bad. I mean, you got to be doing paradigm shifts. You got to be violating time. You got to be violating money. You got some serious violations going on for somebody to come in. Because remember, did they have enough need to come here?
Yeah.
They had enough need to come here. If they had enough need to come here, shouldn't you step up to deliver the service to meet the need? I think so. So they had enough need to come here. They still had their problems. We pull all their records, the people who left after 1, 2, 3 visits. Okay? You might want to do that tomorrow. Pull 5 patients who left after 1 or 2 visits. Guess how many positive findings I'm going to find? You think that was okay to have all these positive findings and they're gone? Is that okay as a healthcare professional? Is that ethical? Is that moral? In other words, the need was there. Something happened between that need and them quitting. Are you with me? Okay. And what was it? It was probably patient education first. Second, it was not handling money right. Second, violating time third. And here's the fourth one. Violating paradigm shift. What's the paradigm shift? They come in for back pain and you start talking about asthma, allergy, bedwetting, and subluxations. How well does that go over to you when you go to the dentist for your tooth and he starts talking to you about how he can help you with your asthma? And you have no idea how much of a violation that is. Because you sat for 3.5 years with other chiropractors in this cooking pot. And everybody said, that's going to be okay, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to be okay, isn't it? This is cool, isn't it? Yeah, this is cool, isn't it? You sat in everybody just inbreeding, believing the same thing. And then you got out. You went in normal. You went in normal. And then this talk, this self-cult talk happened for 3.5 years. And you get out and you get your ass kicked. Nobody comes in for subluxation. Nobody comes in to have their babies treated for asthma. Nobody's coming in as their chief complaint for wellness care. And you know who the only people, when I used to do this seminar, and I used to do it with spouses present, to like seniors, you know who the ones who understood it? The spouses. Every time the spouse would go something like this. I told you that because she remained normal.
Right. She wasn't part of the cult.
Are you married?
No.
Did you have your spouse, when you come home and start saying some of this, did your spouse kind of give you this, what are you doing here? What do you think? See, she didn't become culticide. She remained a normal consumer. So the people that stay that way, they get their butt kicked out in the real world. And I did. That's how I ended up sleeping on the floor in an apartment in a sleeping bag. So yeah, I do know it's real. But I also know how they do buy. And they buy gateways. And they're totally willing to buy the 3 phases of healing because it makes absolute sense. And then they're willing to spend the money on it if you make it affordable and spread it out. And you don't waste their time. You respect their time and you get them in and you get them out of here. You'll get a lot of business because that's what they really want. Okay?